I'll start. So now I'll start. Jazakallah khair, guys, for being on time. I appreciate it. I assume today would be a small crowd. I know there's a lot going on for Eid and kind of school. Everybody's kind of getting back in session. And we haven't had our program for a couple weeks. So inshallah, hopefully, I know some people told me they'll be coming. Alhamdulillah, that's fine. At least we'll start, inshallah ta'ala. I think tonight's introduction to hopefully a couple-week journey we'll take together. I hope and I pray, and it's a very unique journey, a unique presentation about something I think a lot of us study in a lot of ways. Many of us, of course, have either in our history, school, from your parents, have learned about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But today, inshallah ta'ala, I'll introduce and we'll talk a little bit about this series. It's going to be every Wednesday, and how it's going to be completely different, I hope, from the traditional way of you learning about really the most important man, the most impactful man, the most popular man. If you want to go just by like name recognition, the most popular name on earth is Mohammed. And of course that disseminates from really the last man who many people consider, not just outside of the Muslim world, many people consider really one of the most influential figures in human history. Michael Hart, in a book written several years ago, almost a decade ago, he's a historian, very popular book that he wrote about the 100 most influential figures in human history, and Muhammad ﷺ was on number 1. And many people throughout history have spoken about Prophet ﷺ in different lights. So today, inshallah ta'ala, I'll introduce to you guys, hopefully, you know, well, I'm being attacked. That's really weird. I never got attacked by a bug before, so it's good. So it's. I hope it's a very unique presentation about the life of Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in a way you've never heard it before. And I think, for the most part, it's a small class, so I'm going to engage you guys a lot, inshallah. I know all your names, so I'll engage you by name as well. So I believe that a lot of us have always heard about, or, you know, there's the myth of a man. You know, the greatness, how amazing, how wonderful, how transformative, how phenomenal. And a lot of times, especially as Muslims, including myself growing up, I never understood why. Like, I don't get it. What was it about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that was so unique? What was it that was so transformative? What was it that was so, why is it motivational to me? I don't feel motivated. I don't feel inspired by him. I don't feel like he's changed my life. I don't feel like there's anything that I can look up to. And a lot of times this happens because really the way that we have been accustomed to being presented about him. You know, a lot of ways, especially like in history class or in sports even, you know, there's a lot of marketing or hype up or build up between celebrities. What celebrities are all hyped about, right? Well, from the girl that goes on Dr. Phil and says, you know, cash me outside, and then she blows up, to, you know, I don't know, a very famous quarterback because he's married to a supermodel, or even somebody in history like, you know, different names like Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King. There's so many names that we are thrown in our faces as being these motivational people, leaders, inspirers, transformative people. But our community has failed, and I'm sorry for the lack of a term, but we have failed to make Prophet Muhammad a mainstream inspirational person, let alone in our own Islamic schools, or like the way we learn about him from our parents. So it takes away all of, not just the hype, not just the myth, not just how great somebody is, but it takes away all the motivation, all the inspiration, all the amazing lessons that you are supposed to get when you learn Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's life. And so that's why I wanted to name this series Legendary Lessons, because he is the most legendary man in history. And it's one thing when some human writes that. It's another thing when the creator of humanity says that, right? When the creator of the universe says خَيْرَ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ, like the greatest of all of creation. And he was created, before his creation, he was created as the best of creation. And his entire life, from the beginning of his life to the end of his life, it's the greatest story in history. It's not just me telling you, right? It's Allah Azza wa Jal, the one that tells us. And what's interesting is that Allah didn't send him to be a person that we know his age when he got married, or to know, what was the first battle he endured, or what was the name of the woman that breastfed him. Those are all information that we're always presented with, but those are completely irrelevant to how he's supposed to change your life. Because usually the questions we get asked about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ are questions that are for our brain cell memorization requirements, right? And it's not really, oh, he transformed my life. Oh, I got so inspired by a story or a moment or an event or an occasion, right? And I don't think a lot of you guys, at the end of our last series, I talked a little bit about why we're choosing Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's life. But I think a lot of you missed that session. Maybe Samira, you caught it. But when we talked about how do you get to love somebody? Why do you follow somebody on social media? What is it that you're trying to get out of that? Give me an example. Give me a name of a person that you check every day they're posting on social media, and why, if you don't mind. Huh?
Activities, what they're doing.
Okay, very good. So what they're doing, what does that bring to you? Like when you see somebody, give me an example. Can you give me an example? I'll start. So I was speaking to you a little bit before. But for example, I follow Tony Robbins. Anybody know Tony Robbins? One of the most popular motivational speakers in the world, life coach, very, very huge, this huge celebrity when it comes to personal development in particular. And I always watch his posts. I watch every video he puts up every day. I watch, I look at his pictures. And I give up my likes on Instagram and Facebook very specific. I'm not very generous with my likes. Right? So you have to work hard. I know a lot of people just like to like everything, for example. Just go through all their feed liking everything, even though they hate, oh my God, she looks so ugly, like. Oh my God, they're so, whatever. Oh my God, I'm so jealous, they're still on vacation, like. But, that sense, but I'm very cautious with my likes. And even who I follow. Because I like to filter, my brain and what's coming into my psyche. But one of the things is that I really look forward to certain, like his posts. Because I get benefit out of them. And that's why I follow him, right? So I'm wondering who you follow on, like, who's your biggest follow person every day on social media? Everybody's on social media every day, right? Every 5 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
I don't like follow specific people for like what they post. It's just like, I'm more of a Twitter person.
Okay.
So it's like, you follow people that like, I look through people's feeds to see what they retweet and like make sure it's something that like is beneficial, because I swear like a lot of people, they retweet things that are like actually good, like I actually learned stuff, like being woke and like all that.
Good, very good. So social justice stuff.
Yeah.
On being woke means being aware of the injustices going on and what's going on in life and how being like, very good. So you get benefit from those people. Those are friends, or those are like celebrities, journalists, activists.
It's a
mixture. Okay, good, very good. Jinan? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay, so friends? Okay, what are you trying to get from following them? Nothing? You just follow them just for the sake of following them? Do you ever unfollow somebody? And why? For the sake of the discussion. If they post too much? On like Snap? No, not Snap. That's irrelevant. Like on Facebook or Instagram? If they're spamming Instagram, I unfollow. Why? Just wondering. Because a lot of nonsense that's completely like irrelevant to me. Very good. Okay, good. It's a good point. Very good. Jamal. Anybody you follow on social media? Anybody you again, it's general. By the way, social media is one platform where we follow people. And any platform. Like, who do you look up to and why? Any person, any human. Okay, good. Why? Who and why? Okay, Ronaldo, of course. Why? He's smooth. He's the GOAT, right? He's a GOAT means like greatest of all time. So he's an amazing. He's amazing at what he does. He's mastered, particularly a craft, or like it could be Kobe or LeBron or whoever in fantasy football season rounds, so like Aaron Rodgers, whoever it is that you look up to in terms of sports figures, because of what they do at such an amazing level, right? Millions of people watching, billions of people there, everybody's relying on him. He makes trillions of dollars, but yet at the same time, he's always clutch, right? He's always bigger than the moment, and so people, that's 999,000 out of 1 million people would never be able to do that. But he can, so I look up to that. Very, very good. Different people. A lot of us, again, you look up to different people on social media. You look for different things. But all of these people are meant for you to gain something out of them. Right? They're what we call, and we discussed this when we first started a series before, it was called role models. And role models, humans do not survive without role modeling. You and me and you, subconsciously and consciously, 9 out of 10 decisions in our life are because somebody else does them or did them or is doing them, right? We do not function as creatures on our own. We are socially influenced creatures at all time. So nothing that happens in our life, what's going on, Mohammed? Nothing that happens in your life is because you want to do it. It's usually because I want somebody else did it or I want somebody else to see, right? So we are always extremely socially conscious. Why is that important? Because that's just, why does that happen? Because that's just a part of our development. From a very young age, we cannot do things we've never seen. Humans do not do things they've never seen. So what you see or what you bring into your consciousness will shape you whether you like it or not. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah the creator of humanity, gave role models to humans. And He specifically emphasized on certain role models. And He specifically, out of all the role models, chose one person to be the role model for all of humanity. And only one person. Allah Azza wa Jal says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. There's only one type of model that is for every human being to follow. One person. And Allah is the one that appointed and anointed him that. And that was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this human is not just for Muslims. He is not a man for Muslims. He is Nabi for humanity. He's a model for all humanity to learn from. And in the mainstream, they don't talk to him. They don't talk up his legend enough because of us. Because we don't even get inspired by it. We're not even motivated by it. Right? His stories, we're not even motivated by it. So why would he fall into the mainstream? And the mainstream usually talks about, Gandhi is very, very popular. MLK is very, very popular. Abraham Lincoln is very, very popular. Different people. Mother Teresa is very, very popular. So there's always these names that everybody talks about, right? Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Tom Brady or, people talk about leaders, but never in the discussion. Jesus definitely gets talked about. But not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though his impact is greater than all of them, over a longer duration, over a more wider scope. So when we learn about the Prophet ﷺ today, inshallah, or in this series, it's to really get motivated by him. And I'll give you guys four important lessons in why we learn about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I'll go through them very, very quickly. The first of them seems a bit weird, but it's extremely important. I wanted to put something else there, understanding God, but I settled on understanding the Quran. I'll explain why. Or you can explain to me why. Why is understanding the Quran, why is studying Prophet Muhammad the best way to understand Quran? Why is studying about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Just so you guys know, you should say sallallahu alaihi wasallam at least once to yourself when his name is mentioned. It's always good. You can say it more than that. That's good. Why is studying his life, Prophet Muhammad's life, teaching you Quran? Yes. He, excellent. Number one, he is the Quran. How? How is he the Quran?
He practiced everything in the Quran. He practiced everything.
Okay.
Mentioned in the Quran.
Very good. So everything the Quran says, he does. Okay, good. Excellent. Beautiful point. What else? Why is learning about Prophet Muhammad going to help your own understanding of Quran? Yes, Samira.
Understanding the background and the circumstances surrounding being revealed.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. So understanding context, the moment, the incident, what's going on. So how can you understand the Quran if you don't know what's going on? By the way, an overwhelming chunk of the Quran is that, right? And I'll talk about that in a second. Very good. What else? Anything else? What does the Quran get you? What does understanding the Quran get you? So I learned about Prophet Muhammad's life, I understand Quran. What is the Quran supposed to get me? An understanding of who? Of God, the Creator. And there's no way to be connected to God if you don't understand the Quran. And there's no way to understand the Quran if you don't understand Prophet Muhammad's life. They come hand in hand, right? So I cannot get closer to Allah if I don't understand the Quran. I don't understand the Quran if I don't understand Prophet Muhammad's life. Point blank. Here's what Allah Azza says. Allah Azza says, tell them, O Muhammad, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهِ. Look, if you love Allah, if you truly love the Creator, and every human loves the Creator. I mean, I think any human that believes in the Creator, then they would love the Creator. And the only way to love the Creator or understand the Creator is only through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By the way, that is a biblical verse. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that. It's a biblical verse, always brought up by our Christian community, about the only way through God is through, only way towards God is through Jesus. Anybody ever heard that verse before? It's a popular verse, very, very repeated often. Actually, that verse is that this statement is told to every prophet to their people to say. Right? So no prophet ever went to their people and told them, yeah, you can understand God on your own. No, he said, if you want to love God, you listen to what I'm telling you. He's speaking to me. But not every people believe their prophet. The only human, though, that Allah told to tell humanity that if they love Him, because Jesus told His people, but the Prophet ﷺ was told, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ. Anybody that loves Allah, love me or follow me, يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهِ, Allah will love you. So that path, that gate to Allah, God's love, is actually through Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. For any human, at any time, right? Again, he's not the Prophet of Muslims. He's the Prophet of humanity. There's a big difference between them. So, some of the points I wanted to understand. Number one, we will not, just like the Quran does not care about dates. Any dates in the Quran? Is there any names of places for every story in the Quran? Is there the name of every single person that's sitting in the story? Is everybody in the movie? If Allah is teaching you a story in the Quran, is every single name in the movie being mentioned? Is the place being mentioned? Okay, so why aren't those things mentioned? Very, very good. Excellent. So those are absolutely irrelevant to what the point of the Quran is. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jalla completely omits. Is there ages in the Quran? Is there dates? Is there names? Is there colors? Is any of that important? No, it's not important. Sometimes it is. But every story has a specific message for you. And the message is the most important part, none of those things. Interestingly enough, when we talk about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's life, it begins with names. It's a social studies class or a history class. And it's just like 15 names of tribes, 900 names of clan leaders. Then you start to learning about, okay, this habit, that habit, this habit, that habit, this age, this habit. And after a while, you be like, man, this is whack. I don't want to take a class. Maybe some of you are here thinking that, right? It's like, I don't want to take a class. I just want to be inspired. And subhanAllah, the Quran is exactly that. The Quran is like that. And guess what? What we've done to Prophet Muhammad's life is exactly the opposite of what the Quran came to do. Because the life of Prophet Muhammad was not written down for almost 100 years after his death in detail, right? There were phrases and concepts that he taught. Everybody wrote those down. But his life wasn't really compiled, and we'll go into some of the schematics, but until much later. So what did the companions live off of? What changed their lives? It was just him. What he did, how he acted, what he taught. They were inspired by him. And he was able to take, again, it's the greatest, you could say it's really studying seerah is a testimony to the miracle of what Prophet Muhammad did, right? And we talked about this a little bit, why God. I'm sorry if you guys weren't here for some of those sessions. I'll bring some of the important stuff back up. But in Why God, we discussed that the greatest miracle of Islam was what the message of Muhammad did to people that were shepherds of, guys, they weren't taxi drivers. It's like saying, hey, the Uber drivers of Dallas will be the leading, politicians in 100 years. Right? You'd be like, wait, well, hold on a second. I know a couple of cab drivers and Uber drivers. Actually, my brother's one. Like, he's not going to change anything anytime soon. Prophet Muhammad took people that were they were shepherds of camels and sheep. And they were Bedouins. They had no infrastructure. They had no money. They had no armies. They had no civilization. They didn't have a library in Mecca. They had no architecture. They had no buildings. They had no paintings. They had no authors. They had no historians. But he took those ragtag people and they became the greatest civilization the world ever saw in less than 20 years of him being with them. Wait, how can a transformation like that happen in 20 years? How can that happen? It's because of definitely the message and the man that brought the message. And so they changed, the companions, guys, I know sometimes, we'll get to this discussion in a second, but the companions, they revolutionized the world. They cared about the environment before people cared about the environment. They cared about children, and they were giving child support before the concept of child support even existed, right? They were worried about paving roads before the concept of paving roads even existed. I'm talking about that level of depth about what they gave to humanity. Let alone the major thing that they did, the justice that they brought the world, the freedoms that they brought the world, etc., etc. How did all that happen? Is only through Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So his message was relevant to people, his message was practical to people, and his message was real. It wasn't some phony dude, come tell me stories. I'll give you guys a small example because it happened the other day. You know, it's interesting the way we teach kids. My daughter particularly, she goes to Islamic school. I won't mention or disclose the name of the Islamic school. But just yesterday, she had a Hajj workshop. Maybe my wife snapped about it. Maybe you guys follow my wife. So in the Hajj workshop, they did a Hajj workshop to teach the kids about Hajj. It's very cool. It's beautiful. I love it. So 3-year-old, so Jenna's 3. Okay? So Jenna's 3 and she does, the little Kaaba thing. It's really cool. And then, Safa and Marwa. You guys have done this before when you guys are young? Yeah, very good. Safa and Marwa is really, really cool. And then they brought them outside to the mountain of Arafat. Interestingly, Arafat has a lot of benefits. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later because tomorrow's the day of Arafat. It's a very special day. So Arafat is it's a nice day. And really one of the most momentous occasions is a talk that the Prophet gave there, right? His final Hajj. So this brother, he's an older brother, alhamdulillah. I can't hate on it, but they were 3-year-olds. And he starts teaching about Arafat by saying, إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده سبحانه نستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله. Like he said the whole khutbah. Then he said the Prophet khutbah in Arabic. Then he said, brothers and sisters, the Prophet of Allah has taught us about obeying the commandments of Allah. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, hold on a second, man. Couldn't you just sit there for 5 minutes and make dua with the little kids and teach them that, hey, Arafah is about making dua and connecting to Allah? Like, so sometimes the information is all we care about. I need to tell you, hey, this is what it is. This is the information, okay? Prophet Muhammad was 6 years old when his mom died. What was his mom's name? You don't know? Astaghfirullah. But it's like, wait, it's nice to know his mom's name. I think that's a second or third level of love. Like, you know your best friend. It'd be very awkward if you didn't know their mom's name, right? But I don't need that to motivate me in my life. I don't need that to get me closer to Allah. It's completely irrelevant. That's much more important than me knowing his mom's name. But it's really cool if you did. Does that make sense? So the social studies part is not what we're doing in this. It's not a social studies class. We're going to take a moment or an incident or an event, and we're going to say, how did the Prophet ﷺ at the age of 8 learn resilience? Like, how was he resilient at 8? When he lost his mom, dad, and grandfather, in literally in 8 years, his entire family structure came collapsing, and he was still such a confident kid. How did he keep confidence? How was he still so happy? How did him being a shepherd at the age of 12 teach him how to be caring and empathetic and worrying about others and kind and very cautious? You know, those are really the important lessons. Everything else is not important. Those are the lessons that are supposed to be taken home, just like the Quran. The Quran didn't care about names, dates, ages, times, because they're irrelevant. The point was to inspire you. Okay? So that's how we'll learn it, number 1. If there's any questions, by the way, you guys can feel free. Number 2. And again, we've been talking about these concepts. Number 2, the most important part of his lesson, his life, is so that it helps you. It helps you. Not me. It's not about what I'm going to teach you. It's not about what his life was about. That's irrelevant. He lived, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he died. He faced challenges and he overcame them. That's irrelevant to your life, right? What you need to take is how it benefits you. Like, hey, he lost mom, dad, and grandfather, for example. I'm giving an example. And, okay, I lost my iPhone for a day. They seem very, very different. But it's real to you. Like, that's a problem that you have. Hey, when the Prophet ﷺ was stoned out of Ta'if and he was kicked out. What happens when you feel like you come home from work or school, or like you go to a family function and you know you're with your, I know Eid's coming up, that's why I'm bringing this up. You know, you go to the entire extended family function and you hate your life because they all picked on you for not being married. You'd be like, oh my God, I hate my life. Like, I know it's a tough scene. And you might feel sad, and it's like you might feel really sad, or in a gathering of friends and you get your feelings hurt. How do you react when you're hurt? The way the Prophet ﷺ reacted when he was hurt. Really, really badly. It's all about how you transform your life. It's not about his life. So everything you take out of his life is meant to help you. It's meant for him to be your role model, specifically to you. The way you understand it, the way you need it, not the way somebody else is going to impose it on you, right? Because his life is, again, for all of humanity to learn from. Allah Azza says, we sent the Prophet ﷺ rahmatan lil alameen. He is a mercy in its totality for every human being. But that doesn't mean anything if I didn't bring that mercy into my life, right? So it's not just a theory. It's like, okay, how do I apply this in my life? How did I really learn from this lesson how to implement it in my life? And that's what we care about with this series. I want to know how it impacts you, how the story can help you, how we can equip you to help your life. Does that make sense? Very, very good. Your source of happiness, victory, and success is through his life lessons. Because the Prophet ﷺ was, without a doubt, the happiest human, most successful human to ever exist. Right? You can learn when you take an MBA, or you go to your master's, or you learn the bachelor's, or you're studying, or whatever you're doing in life, you're always looking for somebody that did it well before me. Whether it's a major you're trying to finish, or a paper you're trying to write, or like you don't care. Like, I'll copy anybody that did it well, right? I don't care. Well, life is a test, or a journey, or a game. And your best role model to follow in being happy and successful and victorious at the end of it is Prophet Muhammad. So you need to learn, we need to learn the ways to win the game of life from him. And only him. Not only him, but truly through him. Right? You will see that other people, we can learn from anybody. Alhamdulillah, anybody you want to learn from, that's great. But you will see like, man, the Prophet ﷺ had everything. He had it all in a way that no other human being had it all. And we're talking about to his family, to his friends, to his boys, how he laughed, how he cried, how he was happy, how he was motivated, how he was angry. Like everything was there. You just learn from that. And that's the game towards the way to win and be successful. Yes?
Yeah, sometimes when we face any difficulty and we try to be like Prophet Muhammad, some people say we are not prophets. We are not Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
God gave him the power. He's a prophet.
Okay.
So,
Jazakallah khairan. I always hear that. It's a way to tell people, hey, my life sucks, it's okay. He was a prophet and I'm just going to be bad. Hey, I'm losing. You see, he was a winner and I'm a loser. I believe that's a way, it's a cop-out for you to say, I suck and it's okay for me to suck. Where I don't believe that's okay. Yeah, can I just say, the Prophet ﷺ was so passionate with his wives. Oh, he's a prophet. Why should I be, Oh, he was so caring with people. He's a prophet. I'm a jerk. Like I can't justify my failures and say he's a prophet. Because Allah said, no, he's your role model. Allah Azza told us, the Prophet told us, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. Look, he said, you guys don't really have faith in God until you love me more than your fathers and your children and all of humanity combined. It's a very, very high mantle. But all that means is, it's not just about love. It's about, because love at the end of the day is about action. It's about what we do to live like him. Right? And that doesn't mean, and again, some people take it to an extreme, and even some companions, I'm going to get to that side in a second, even some companions to that to an extreme, right? Like Ibn Umar, you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever heard these really funny stories about Abdullah bin Umar. Abdullah bin Umar would be so strict in following Prophet Muhammad, so the Prophet ﷺ might be like, he might have like, the way he gets to his house is he passes by a tree, he ducks under a branch, and he puts his camel. So Abdullah bin Umar would only go home until he goes by the Prophet ﷺ's, the same road, ducks under the tree, Abdullah bin Umar was so strict, like he would walk exactly, talk exactly, move exactly like him, like a robotic kind of thing. But that's just how he expressed his life. That's cool, right? There's a lot of homies walking around like Bieber, or like Beyonce, or like Nicki Minaj. Like, there's a lot of people that do a lot of freaky stuff. I'm okay with that, right? I think we see that. That's cool. But at the end of the day, it's about him being your model in how to attain happiness. Happiness with others, happiness with yourself, how you have self-confidence, how you can have resilience, how you can have empathy, how you can be strong, how you can be confident, how you can be communicating with others, how you can be empathetic. And I'm going to give you guys a bunch of these examples, but those are the lessons that are really impactful to your life. Those are the lessons that you're supposed to emulate. How long his beard or how short his beard, what kind of clothes he wore, how nice his turban was, what color it was. Again, irrelevant stuff, right? He had nice turbans. He wore different clothing. He had a nice beard. But that's not what it's about. That's not what learning is about. It's about transforming your life. Does it make sense? Very, very good. So I think that's a way for people to cop out. He is the model. We're not told to be prophets. We're told to model him. Right? So that's the only way to answer that. And to the best of our ability, right? And not everybody can do everything, but your job is to try as best as you can. Very cool. Any other questions? Good, very good concept. Question, thought. I'll ask you guys a question if you don't have questions. Or I'll try to ask you guys a question. Okay. All right, next slide. Very, very quick. I'll ask you guys more questions on this one. I should not make them pop up. I apologize that. What makes you love somebody that you don't know? Yeah, this is a question. Yes, Yusuf.
The way they react to you.
The way they react to you? Give me an example.
Like the way they talk to
So if they talk to you in a caring, kind way, you like them? Very good. Know them or don't know them? Well, everybody you know you didn't know once, right? Okay, so we eventually got there with everybody. How did we keep knowing them? Jinan? I'm sorry? When you talk to them, okay. Talk to them about anything in particular?
Their character. Their personality.
Okay, their personality clicks with you? Okay, good. Okay, I like the word vibes. What does vibes mean? I love these really mythical words. It's a good word, but how do we measure vibes? Okay. Energy, like you're clicking with them. Do you ever meet somebody and it's really uncomfortable and awkward? What do you usually do? You do a turtle thing, what turtles do, and you go back into your shell, right? Right, very good, very good. So when people are uncomfortable and engaging, right, you turn to your phone or you kind of have this awkward pause and you walk away, right? It happens with every even the most extroverted people, it happens to them, right? That's normal, very, very good. But when you're really clicking with somebody, you can click with them even from far away. Like they look like, hey, you kind of swag to me, like I want to be around you, right? Even from far away, like you might not even know them. Or somebody's, like you're really, their aura, like you don't even, you walk into a place and you can see everybody's, their aura. Yeah, they're, what? You said it wrong or I said it wrong? I think it's aura, right? Like their aura's illuminated, so everybody's around and you just kind of like, hey, you know, let me sneak up and see whatever. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ he was superbly like that. And we don't know his personality enough to be attracted to him enough like that. So the Prophet ﷺ's personality is extremely important to love. Now, I don't think I ever grew up learning anything about his personality, ever. Like, I barely knew how he looked like, and we'll go through his description, what is known in the science as shama'il, like his descriptions. But before you get to that, like I think you gotta know his personality. And those are always the most moving stories for me. When the Prophet ﷺ, you know, a lot of, I could give you 1,000 good stories, but I'll give you a couple of the main ones. When a man, can anybody imagine this? Anybody have a water bottle? No, okay, it's okay. Can you imagine, like right now, right this second, somebody that was homeless in Houston? They lost everything. They walk into the masjid, they came into the door, and you could tell they're not from here, they've been through a lot, there's something going on with this person. And they walk to that corner right there, and they unzip their pants, and they urinated in that corner. What would we think? In New York, you see that a lot, by the way. I think it's good that you guys are, like, it'll happen, like somebody, but if it happens here, like everybody would run, I know you guys will all run to the doors, and you're gonna leave me to talk to them. What if, and I'm being honest, what if we were a group of uncles and ammos, and it was salah time, and none of us in here were under the age of 50. And this person came and did that in the corner. What would they all do to him? They would get up and grab, everybody would get up and grab, everybody would shred him to sushi, right? Now I want you, again, we have to think of moments, right? So then imagine that the imam that's sitting there with these group of uncles, as they're going to kill him, he tells them, listen, sit down. Let him finish using the bathroom. When he's done, I'll talk to him. Can you imagine a moment like that ever happening? I can imagine a moment where a kid has a bottle of milk and he drops a dot on the carpet without the little kid being killed. Right? Yes, there's some places you can't imagine that. Let alone an old man, an older person, and that's exactly what happened to the Prophet ﷺ's time. Literally, and things you cannot imagine. Or you cannot imagine, like any one of us, right now, any one of us, like right this second, you see a 5-year-old, a Salahuddin. How old is Salahuddin? 6? 7. So you imagine Salahuddin sitting on the stairs crying. Okay? I guarantee you, and we know Salah ad-Din, right? Like, I guarantee you, everybody's going to go get their shoes and walk out. He's crying. Like, kids just said, what the hell is crying? What the hell is crying? So imagine, like, or maybe somebody was really nice, and she's like, Salah ad-Din, what's wrong? He's like, I dropped all my M&Ms on the floor. And he's sitting and crying. You'd be like, oh, it's okay. And you walk away, right? Like, it's like, I got a million things to do. I got a project tomorrow. I got to eat, dress to get ready. There's a million things in your head. You don't care. So can you imagine the Prophet ﷺ sees one day, it's a random 6, 7, 8-year-old kid. Nobody even knows his name, right? He's sitting in the street crying. Everybody's walking by him. But the Prophet ﷺ, like, he consciously sees the kid crying, and he goes in and he says, hey, what's wrong? So the kid says, my pet bird died. So the Prophet ﷺ would sit next to him and be with him for an hour or two, just talking to him about his bird. And he's the most busiest human in history. Like, there are moments and incidences where you truly feel somebody's character. Let alone the stories like when, when the Prophet ﷺ would leave, like an area would be filled with perfume. Or the Prophet ﷺ's hands were always so soft and silky. Or his hair, like when the companions used to describe it, they'd be like, it's always like, it should be on a, what is the shampoo? Pantene Pro-V? Like, he should be in a Pantene Pro-V commercial, right? That's how they describe his hair. But you'd be like, wait, I never, like GQ magazine? Yeah, I didn't see that. And yeah, that wowould be the Prophet ﷺ nowadays. So understanding this personality is really, really important. That it's not just moments, events. Like, you have to know the figure, right? The movie, when you're attached to a movie character, it's because you're going through their struggle, but you're connecting with them. And that's what's really, really important in the story about the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Knowing his human. It's the only way I can describe it. Knowing the human Muhammad, not just the Prophet Muhammad, right? That's very, very important. So his stories, personality, psychology, and his greatness. We'll talk about them each in detail. Very good. Any questions? Last but not least, again, these are the benefits or what we learn from learning about Prophet Muhammad's life. The last of them, and not the least of them, is we learn about his team. It's one thing to learn about Allah, it's another thing to learn about him, but it's also amazing when you start to learn about the people that were around him, right? Because he's not the only person in the movie, right? It's not just about him. When you learn about the struggles of his wife, and first of all, how amazing she was, and then how much difficulty she went through outside of the Prophet ﷺ, right? Outside of him. Or what people that had no reason to be like they had no reason at all to be able to sustain watching their friends die or watching their family die. There's no reason for it. But they were willing to do it because of him, right? Or understanding like the amazing things that they achieved. Amazing stories. I know a lot of times we call them companions. But sometimes I just feel like that's his team. Like, this is boys, this is friends. Like, you don't walk around calling your friends companions, right? They're just like, my squad, right? I should have put squad up there, right? The companions are really his squad. That's his crew. So understanding them really well, like, you're like, wow, I can't imagine how much I would learn from their stories, from their personalities, from their psychology, from the things that they teach me as well, right? So all of them are things, and obviously from their greatness as well. Because it's not just, teamwork makes the dream work. It wasn't just the leader. It was the leader and everybody that was around them that really is the reason we're Muslim today, right? As bad or as hard or as difficult Islam looks today, right? And maybe so unattractive or unmotivating, whatever. But they ensured that it would last for 1,436 years, 37 years. Right? Like, they put the seeds. Like, it still exists in all of its oddness because of them. So understanding them is really, really important to the story of, obviously, the Prophet's life. So it's not just about him when we learn about him. So again, we'll focus on moments, incidents, events that we've learned from, not just, there's a lot of stories, a lot of names, but we'll highlight the important ones, inshallah ta'ala, bidhnillah. Any questions or comments? Any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, suggestions? Okay, good, nothing at all? Okay, very good. What were the 4 reasons we talked about? Why learn about Prophet? That's the last one. So what were the 3 others? Why we learned about his life? Number 1 is understand the Quran. Very, very good. And from that, understand Allah, right? Love Allah. Very, very good. And again, without understanding the message, the lessons, and that's what we're focusing on. Very good. Number 2 is understand how it benefits my life. It's not about anybody else. It's not about some other person, right? I'm just learning so I can attain information. It's how you best learn to change your life from his example. That's the only reason his example is there. It's not there to be a nice story. It's there to motivate you, to inspire you, to help you change, right? It's very, very important. And last but not least, number 3 is to understand his human. Right? Can we understand him as a human being? Like I would understand anybody on, like if we followed Prophet Muhammad on social media today, what would he be posting? What would he be snapping about? What would he be Facebook living about? What would he be talking about? What would he be tweeting about? What would he be saying? What would he be doing? What would be his comment? Like if you can imagine that, then we've accomplished understanding his personality, his human, right? Understanding his psyche, the way he thought, the way he felt, and the way he behaved. Right? That's what psychology is. When I say mention psychology. Like how did the Prophet think at the moment of difficulty, at the moment of happiness, at the moment of achievement, at the moment of defeat? What did he think about? What did he focus on? How did he act? Those are the important things that we're going to learn. I have several books that I'm trying to use for this. I can share the references with you guys. But I highly encourage, first up, first this is the last time we'll lecture like this. Hopefully we'll have tables set up. We do want it to be a bit studious, so I definitely want you guys, certain incidents, we're going to focus on major incidents, not everything in the middle. I want you guys to make sure you're reading along with us. So you maybe haven't done this in a long time, or whatever way you learn this. It's cool. We're going to try to learn this systematically together. So if you have a book that you kind of once read about Prophet Muhammad's life, and it's actually surprising that most people have never read his whole life, right? And that's something, inshallah, we'll try to solve with this course. We're going to try to go through his whole life, especially the major incidents, major moments. So take a book and read along with us. Next week, for example, we're going to study, and it's very, very important. We're going to study the political social dynamics of his culture. What was going on before he came? Right, so you can read about that. There's several good books. I'm sure I have 3 or 4 of them upstairs. Anybody want to share a name of one book that they have? Maybe that way, anybody have a book at home that they read through? Or yes. When God?
I think it's One God, Raza Aslan.
Raza Aslan. One God. And that's about Prophet Muhammad? Interesting. Okay, I would like to read that. I disagree with Raza that's the Raza Arslan, right? The one that goes on CNN? Okay, cool. I disagree with a lot of things he has, but that's very interesting. Cool, very good. What else? Anybody else have a book? When the Moon Split? Okay, I think I've heard of that. Very, very good. So you guys obviously don't have any 21st century books, right? Okay, 3, you guys should write 3. These 3 books are the best books. If you can cop one on Amazon, I'm not sure which one is cheapest. Buy a used one, that's fine. If you're not into books, that's fine too. I'll give you some lecture series to listen to. But if you're into the books, I think you should definitely have one of these 3 books. Number 1, In the Footsteps of the Prophet by Tariq Ramadan. In the Footsteps of the Prophet, Tariq Ramadan. It's a very, very cool book. It's an easy read. It's a good read. Very, very good. Tariq Ramadan, very, very popular scholar in Switzerland. Number 2 is Mohammed, Man and Prophet, Adil Salahi. It's a book I have upstairs. It's also a nice, easy read, but it's a little bit thicker. So it's a little bit more detailed. If you guys want to use that, if you guys, Adil Salahi, Adilsalhi, I think, Salahi. And number 3 is a really new book that's literally, I think, a year or 2 old, called Revelation. Lots of pictures, lots of diagrams, an excellent book. I don't have it. I've seen other people had it. I've been through it. It's a really, really good book. It's called Revelation. I forget who wrote it, but it's also on Amazon. Very, very good book. Probably the best one I've heard, from different people. That's the best one out today. So those are 3 books to get. If you're into lecture series, anybody into like podcasts or lectures instead? Okay. So Qalam has a really, really good podcast for you to follow up with. So Qalam Seminary, Sheikh Abdul Nasser goes into from beginning to end. It's kind of detailed, but it's good. And Yasser Qadi has a really, really good YouTube series you can go through. All of them go through a lot of detail, and that's not what we're doing here. But it's good if you understand more detail, right? If like you're filling up the loose ends, if you will. We're going to just look at an event and try to extract as much from it as possible, right? That's what we're focusing on. Very cool. Any questions? Are the resources cool? So again, we'll have tables and chairs next time. The setup will be a little bit different. We're going to be a lot more engaging, especially on concepts and thoughts, group activities, different things I'll try to do with you guys. Try to engage you as much as possible. This is every Wednesday from Maghrib to Isha. Yes, every Wednesday from Maghrib to Isha. And barring like any major events or something going on, we'll be here inshallah. Yes. We're going to try to record every week if you guys are worried about that. But you'll miss a lot of it when it comes to the hands-on part. If there's any suggestions or feedback you guys have, that's great. If you guys want any more book or resources, I can maybe do a slide or something like that for you guys, or I could share that with you guys inshallah. Any questions or anything like that? Very, very cool. So again, we're going to learn about Prophet Muhammad's life to transform our lives and to inshallah, hopefully, bidhnillah, emulate and take up his role model as best as possible, inshallah. That's the intent of this thing. Again, we're going to look at really the tarbiyah side of everything, not just what happened, but why it's happening and how we can learn from that, inshallah. All right, very, very cool. Comments? Everybody good? Any thoughts? All right, great. Jazakallah khairan, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week, inshallah ta'ala. Let me give you guys a couple things about Day of Arafah. I had a small talk. So Day of Arafah is tomorrow. By the way, Isha is at 9:30. So we have a good, we're done. But just so you guys know, try to stick down to Isha. Tomorrow is the best day of the year. Right? So out of all the days of the year, tomorrow is the best day of the year. The best night of the year is Laylatul Qadr, right? The equivalent of that is tomorrow, which is the day of Arafah, right? The day of the year. The day of Arafah is special. There's several reasons why the day of Arafah is special. But anybody know why the first of them is? Okay, it's really, really important to understand the significance behind something. The day of Arafah's beginning of its importance started because it was the day that Adam alayhi salam had all of his souls, all the souls of Adam. Allah took all the souls of Adam out, right? Yes? Yes. Before Adam came down to earth, Allah took all the souls of Adam and brought all of humanity's souls into existence. In Surah Al-A'raf. That day, that moment, many scholars mention, is the day of Arafah. Okay? Number 2 is that Adam is believed to have descended upon the mountain of Arafah. So humanity's existence begins on Arafah, if you will. Okay? And from that time all the way until Prophet Muhammad's time, there's some differentiation, but the last verse to ever come down from the Quran, one of the last verses, was when Allah Azza wa Jalla in Surah Al-Ma'idah, He said, "Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum." Today, I've perfected for you your way of living. So humanity starts on Arafah, and on the mountain of Arafah, Allah sends down the last revelation to humanity to guide them, and He sends down the last verse that says, "Hey, I've perfected the way of living for you. Go." All right? That's that moment. By the way, there were many communities, the Jewish community during Umar's time, they was like,